Good afternoon. LJ here in my cozies on this rainy day in Long Beach, coming back with next installment on this How to Cure Anxiety series that I'm bringing forth to share with all of us because we all deal with anxiety. Some of us, it's a terrible impediment to life, right? And some of us just a part of life that we're all learning to manage. So, more on how yoga and meditation in all the various forms can help with curing anxiety. So, today I want to talk about something that you might not have thought of as a part of yoga and meditation, but I am all about sharing journaling as a rad, amazing form of yoga because, as I love to say almost every time I talk about yoga, the yoga is a way of connecting, reconnecting ourselves. That's what yoga means. It means union. It means to join. So anything that we do that reconnects us can be a form of yoga. You can come in. It's okay. I'm on live. So journaling, I come to find, is one of my most powerful forms of connecting these days. And really, I've been using it for at least 20 years. I'd say one of the reasons I started journaling was getting into the book series called The Artist's Way, where Julia Cameron prescribes journaling as something that we can do to tap in more to our creativity and our spirituality, and even see how those two go together. And yeah, that we can start to see that our journaling is like a power practice. And yeah, and that it's totally a form of yoga. I've come to realize and now share and even teach that journaling's a great part of yoga and something that I'm prescribing more with people that I'm getting to work with, especially for these things like anxiety, depression, and things that we definitely see have a mental mind aspect, right? And have to do with our mood. And so I'm loving seeing the results that I'm finding both continually in my own work personally with using journaling in various ways, and then also now that I'm using it more with my one-on-one yoga therapy sessions and in my retreats that I get to do, getting to share more what you can do with the journal and really helping you bring it more into your daily life is what I'm finding I want to share, because it's such a power practice, such a form of connecting, such a form of yoga, and a really great form of meditation, which I think even I got from Julia Cameron back in the day, that she points out that for a lot of us, maybe Westerners, formal sitting meditation practice may feel really challenging. So journaling, writing, is a form of meditation because it's very similar, and that it's giving us a chance to start to observe more, take a look at what is on our mind, start to do even what she calls like a brain drain. So you're even like getting out what is on your mind and what kinds of things you're thinking about. And it even helps us, yes, as you might start to see, realize some of the things that we're thinking about too. So it's really a connecting tool in that it helps us realize a lot about what's going on with us, much less process it, much less move through it, let it go, right? So it's also energy work that we're doing because we're getting to let go of the energy of often like painful things that we've gone through, or that also just the awareness of realizing what we are thinking about, what we are struggling with, can give us a lot of insights, especially as we're looking at things like our anxiety and depression, right? So, and yeah, this is about anxiety primarily, but come to find that often depression goes right with that, because when we're struggling with anxiety, it can feel so stressful, so scary, and often lead to a corresponding depression, right? Which can't blame someone for feeling if they're feeling really scared in their experience and really afraid and unempowered, right? And even taking on that this is just something they're going to have to deal with the rest of their lives, and shutting down even a lot of what they're doing in the world, right? And much less feeling creative, right? Or even maybe spiritual. And that's what's really beautiful about all this too, is that if we see that our yoga and meditation practices are about reconnecting us And if we start to more even see that something like anxiety could also be a signal that we're feeling disconnected in various ways, right? Maybe, like I've talked about the last few days, disconnected from our bodies, right? So it is a way that the body's calling us back in. That's what's so cool about journaling too, is it's a body practice. So it actually brings us into our bodies in an interesting, very grounding way. And I think even especially nowadays, so few people are actually taking pen to paper, and it is actually a really important practice for us as humans. A lot of us, it really works well for us as a connecting tool, as a processing tool, as energy medicine. So for all those reasons, I recommend using it more like every day as part of our tuning practices. That's why I call this whole thing Tune You, because this becomes about our looking at how we can tune ourselves and how we are tuning ourselves and how that's working and how that's playing into maybe our anxiety and depression. And then we can start to play with how we can tune ourselves differently, right? With some of these various things and approaches and even perspectives, like it's all energy, and bringing in things like breath, like I talked about yesterday. And I will be talking about some specific poses, of course, that can help. But journaling, I wanted to bring up sooner than later because it's such a power practice that a lot of us don't even think of as a tool of yoga or meditation, but it absolutely is. It's a great one, and I highly recommend it, especially if you're struggling with things like anxiety or depression, that it's something we can start to do to tune into ourselves more, to find out more what the heck is going on, because there usually is a deeper reason for these things, right? And that's what I love about this too, as maybe a more holistic approach, that in all the ways we might decide to address our anxiety or depression, and whether or not we're also getting traditional medical help, right? That it can be helpful and important to start to look at what's underneath it, what's behind it, because there probably are usually some reasons. And maybe it's, feelings that we're not facing, and so the journaling gives us a way to do that and to process that and to let them go. Maybe it's also has to do with our creativity, and if it has to do with like projects that we're ready to bring through and we're not bringing through, right, that starts to feel like things like anxiety too. So that's where things like the journaling can really help us solve that and realize that and start to get even more in our flow, which is really cool with the journaling too, that not only is it a really great form of therapy that we can do with ourselves, it's going to help us shift these conditions, we might call it, or just shift our experience with these emotions, but it's also a tool for creativity and flow. So there's really good reason to build it into our days and our ways of tuning ourselves, because again, it helps us tune in to what's true for us, what we are going through, what we are thinking about, helps us work with that, deal with that, and respond accordingly, right? But it also tunes us up in a lot of ways too. One of my favorite things to do in the journal is making the gratitude lists and really working with the gratitude, because it turns out that's like an amazing vibrational tool. So I'm starting to prescribe that more to my yoga therapy clients, and whether it's teenagers or 70-year-olds, I'm noticing when we bring in something like journaling to the practices, it is amazing and powerful and really a huge, quick connecting tool. So, and then a lot of people have already realized they love journaling, and they're kind of not doing it for various reasons and avoiding it, which, yeah, maybe sometimes that is because when we get in there, we start to have some realizations, right? And maybe we know we don't want to face some stuff. But if we aren't facing this stuff, maybe that's part of what's leading into our anxiety, right? Is the stuff we're not facing or realizing that we're feeling, much less giving ourselves a chance to love ourselves through that and soothe ourselves through that. And yeah, we bring in that non-judgment too, ideally with something like the journaling, right? And that it becomes a place to just become that observer, and also a place to do some spiritual connecting. That's what I was starting to go a little bit ago, that you start to realize that when you're journaling, you're kind of talking to a part of yourself, or maybe a part of life, or the universe, or God, or whoever. So it is definitely a spiritual tool, which can be a great way to start to remedy things like the anxiety, because often getting more spiritually connected, whatever that means to you, can help, right? And also just helping us connect more with ourselves, right? Which is a helpful remedy for curing things like the anxiety, right? And also does bring us back into our bodies. Also a mindfulness practice, like yesterday was the day I talked about mindfulness and presence as such magical tools. So journaling is just another form of that because it helps us become even more in the moment and present, and yet in that meditative mode. And then you can even add things like relaxing while you're journaling and adding in breathing, like we were playing with a couple days. So that's what a couple days ago. But that's what's cool is you can start to stack some of the practices too, and realize that, yeah, again, you're tuning you, and the more that you do that, more like every day, even if it's just for some minutes, it's really going to make a difference. Help you stay on top of that momentum too, remembering that it's all energy. So the more, like every day, we're doing these things to tune ourselves, like journaling. So yeah, here to recommend, remind you of journaling. And if you'd like some specific ideas, give me a message, a shout out from whichever platform you see this video on. And I'd love to send you some of my favorite ideas of how to get into the journal, how to let it be a therapy, a form of meditation, a form of yoga, and even a way to get into your creativity and passion and purpose and flow, right? It's all good. So yes, I think that about does it. And thank you for listening. I totally appreciate it. Yeah, hope this is helpful to you. And again, please share with anyone you think could benefit from some of these additional ways, you might say, to work with and deal with the anxiety thing, and help to just cure it, in the sense that that means soothe it, manage it, make it better, get it back in balance, right? So yeah, thanks for listening, you guys. Love you so much. Namaste.